guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tandy. Thank you so much for watching. I upload on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and today we are going to do a new segment that I promised to you guys in my Tuesday video. We're going to basically put this makeup look together, get into it, yes honey. And we're also going to be talking about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I'm sure you're like, Tandy, that's like night and day, right? Yeah, well, it's not so much about the makeup as much as it is about the information provided in this video. So if you're interested to know more about Black history as well as see me put together this look, then just keep on watching. So as you guys know, today is August 6th, 2020, but I wanted to take it back a little bit and talk to you guys about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which was signed by President Johnson. If you live under a rock, or you know, hey, maybe you're not from this country, whatever the reason is, let me tell you what that Voting Rights Act was. So it's federal legislation that basically prohibits racial discrimination in terms of voting. We're gonna take it back some. Let's talk about why this is so important. And as usual, all of the products that I use will be listed down below. Before the Civil War, the Constitution did not provide specific protections for voting. If you're looking at me apply concealer literally all over my face, it's because I need it. Before the Civil War, at the time, few northern states permitted a small amount of free Black men to register to vote. But for the most part, slavery and restrictive state laws led voting to basically be primarily for white men. Then shortly after the Civil War, Congress enacts the Military Reconstruction Act, which allowed former Confederate states into the Union as long as they adopted the rules of the Union. In 1868 is when the 14th Amendment was ratified, which allowed citizenships to all persons born in the USA or naturalized to the USA. So the government, you know, they were trying to get, you know, on the right accord. They really tried, because 2 years later, in 1870, the 15th Amendment was passed. And when this was signed, it stated that the right to vote shall not be denied on the basis of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. But naturally, with the Confederate states, or I should say former Confederate states, they had to resist, right? Just couldn't let Black people be great. To further enforce the 15th Amendment, Congress enacted the Enforcement Act of 1870, which contained criminal penalties for interference with the right to vote. And as a result, you know, Black people started voting, and even so much as leading to Black candidates being elected to state, local, and federal offices to play a meaningful role in their communities, which, you know, was great, because who else is going to speak up for Black rights other than Black people, right? This, again, naturally caused an outrage, because we all can't just get along. You know, we gotta be met with resistance for some reason. Several organizations, that's what we're gonna call them, organizations, they attempted to prevent, basically, you know, Black people from not only being registered to vote, but surely they didn't want them in any positions of power. You know, God forbid that. They basically used different acts of violence and intimidation tactics in order to suppress the Black vote. In true white supremacist form, states began enacting a series of state laws to further white political power. Ooh, I think I'm gonna need a little bit more concealer over here, because, ooh, child, I swear, I don't understand why I'm breaking out so So they began basically like creating different types of laws. They did like series of like literacy tests. So if you couldn't pass the literacy test, then you were denied the right to vote, which at the time, these laws excluded Black citizens disproportionately and was known as disenfranchisement. Black men essentially were able to vote federally, but state laws were trying to overpower the federal law. This basically went on for literally decades before Black people were allowed the right to vote. Well, excuse me. We won't say all Black people, because women, that's a totally different issue for a totally different day. But the Supreme Court ruled in 1915 that these grandfather clauses were illegal. The Supreme Court was like, nah, you can't do that. So southern states continue to experiment and try to basically like go around the federal government. But child, the government was like, we got something for that ass. I know this is not too dark of a foundation. It's gonna blend out. Like, don't come for me in the comments. The Voting Rights Act of 1965. As you can see, it was met with a lot of resistance. And I mean, naturally so, because anytime Black people try to get ahead, there's always some people who feel threatened by the idea, right? If you want to keep it all the way above. Didn't nobody ask to come here. I mean, unless you're like literally an immigrant at your own free will, like Black people didn't ask to be here. So you gonna bring me here to this country, make rules that don't apply to me, and then when I finally do get, you know, a little bit of piece of the pie, you gonna try and take it away or make it difficult for me to eat that piece of pie? That's just f***ed up. Let's start talking about the events leading up to the Voting Rights Act, because shit got real up in America, okay? By 1965, right, efforts to break state disenfranchisement was consistent, but again, you know, met with resistance. Like, they were trying to uphold their own amendments and, you know, try to uphold their own federal laws, but they weren't really putting forth the necessary effort in order to make that possible. Not just people, but Black people were outraged, especially because several activists for voting rights for Black people, African Americans, like they were being murdered, like literally being assassinated, because they wanted equal rights. I don't know if you guys know this, but March 7th, 1965, does that date sound familiar? Well, if it doesn't, let me tell you. So March 7th, 1965, marchers crossing the Edmund Perry's bridges in Selma, Alabama were en route to Montgomery. I'm sure we've all heard of the marches in Selma. Hey, look, I told y'all my foundation was gonna blend out. Don't come for me. So they were en route to Montgomery, but unfortunately, they were attacked by state troopers, and this outraged the country as a whole, and rightfully so, because how the hell federal agents are gonna attack the people? Trump. Like, it just makes no sense, right? Like, you're literally working for the people and you're gonna attack them for wanting to, again, get a piece of the pie that is offered to them. Congress at this point, like, they had it. They were like, the states, y'all got to do better, okay? Y'all doing too much and not enough at the same damn time. So Congress determined that the existing federal anti-discrimination laws were obviously not sufficient to overcome the resistance of state laws in order to enforce that 15th Amendment. So President Johnson, shout out to the homie, he called for a strong voting rights law. I'm gonna add a little bit more concealer because I feel like I lost it when I put that foundation on. President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law on August 6, 1965. Then you know, Johnson, you the homie and all for signing this act, but when you really think about it, this is literally like almost 100 years later, because the 15th Amendment, if y'all don't remember, I stated it was enacted in 1870. So you mean to tell me in 1965, almost 100 years later, you're finally going to do something about it? I mean, something should have been done regardless, but like, why did it take so long? Johnson signs this act, right? Had a nationwide prohibition against the denial of literacy tests in order to vote. But what he didn't do was include a provision prohibiting poll taxes. Confederate states literally tried to do anything that they could in order to suppress that vote. You had to have somebody vouch that you were a good citizen in order to be able to vote. What? Now, if we could do that in 2020, a lot of y'all motherfuckers wouldn't be able to vote. So there was still some tweaking that needs to be done to this Voting Rights Act of 1965. So in 1966, Harper v. Virginia's State Board of Elections, the Supreme Court held that Virginia's poll tax was unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment. And I'm sure you're probably like, okay, but that's Virginia. They didn't say anything about federal, right? Well, yet again, these federal laws are already in place. It's just the states that are trying to run amok and do their own damn thing. Do y'all see what that just did to my under eye? I'm looking at this monitor. This is literally the best setting powder. Like, it just makes everything look super smooth, makes my under eye look like I actually got good skin. Oh, this is my broke brush. Damn, look at that, y'all. Let's fast forward a couple years into 1970, 1975, because there was a few amendments that were made. Several Hispanic, Asian, and Native American citizens gave extensive testimonies of voter discrimination, which made Congress make amendments, which included, you know, protections for voting discrimination for language minority citizens, quote, because the states just were not trying to be on the same accord. Side note, do you think that it would be possible for all of us to get on the same accord now, given today's climate? Leave a comment down below. I'm curious to know where y'all stand on that. I didn't bring any bronzer? Ain't no way. Cut the video. I got bronzer, y'all. It's okay. I'm gonna use this Morphe, what is this? M143 brush. This brush sheds like crazy. I see people use this brush all the time in their videos, so I decided to go and get me one. But look at this, like all of these hairs are literally shedding. The feds decided that they had something for the states, right? They said with this act, only federal examiners would be able to conduct voter registration. So it basically is more of a federal level now. It has nothing to do with state. Black voter registration began to see a sharp increase because, you know, you have literally federal agents there able to uphold the law without state interference. Now, the Voting Rights Act is said to have been the single most effective piece of civil rights legislation ever passed by Congress. And I could agree, because voting is actually your right as a citizen. And you know, there's so many countries where people don't have that opportunity to vote and, you know, actually have a say-so in what it is that, you know, their government is doing. Like literally, the government works for us. Like we pay their salaries, but yet I just think it's so crazy how people still don't exercise their right to vote. Or they'll, you know, make up some, in my opinion, stupid ass excuse as to why they feel like it's all a sham or a conspiracy, whatever have you. I mean, when you don't exercise your right to vote, you're basically giving a vote to the oppressor, especially as a Black citizen. Considering like all that our ancestors had to go through, it's kind of like a slap in the face, don't you guys think? I don't know. I just feel like people take this stuff for granted. Like if we don't exercise the right, I feel like it could definitely be taken away.
When do it becomes...
And the whole point of this video, why I chose to, you know, pick this topic, not only because obviously today is, you know, the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, but it's so fitting for the climate that we live in right now with the election right around the corner. I want to make sure that I use my platform to have a voice and speak up and let you guys know, if you don't know already, that is, how important it is to vote, especially as a minority in this country, specifically a Black minority, because that's all I can vouch for because I'm Black. 25 days before the election, you have to be registered to vote. So there will be several links down in the description box for you guys to, you know, register to vote. Election is right around the corner, you guys. Please register to vote. I had this little... See what I'm saying? This is that Morphe brush. It literally sheds everywhere. I remember the first time I actually wanted to vote was when President Obama was in his first run. But I remember feeling so sad that I couldn't vote. So I couldn't even imagine just not voting in general. But no, it's not just about voting for the presidency. I want to make sure that I stress that too. Like, it's also about voting for your state, local elections too. Because look at how hard the states went to suppress voter turnout. Those are the elections that matter the most, are state elections. It's not just about, you know, what can the president do? You know, you gotta start smaller to go up that chain of command. Because I think just voting for presidential elections, part of the reason why we're in the state that we're in right now. I feel like I want to pop a color on my lid. Do I want to pop a color on my lid? Just add a little bit of gold. a tip for you guys. If you're ever using like shimmery shadows, usually they're best applied wet and with the finger. Like, look what I just did to that eye. Tell me you guys' opinion down below. I'm curious to know, what's your stance on voting? Do you agree with me and feel like it's important to vote? Or do you feel like voting is irrelevant because Congress is gonna do what they wanna do regardless? ColourPop Lippie Stix. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of my gloss on top. Strawberry Colada gloss. And plus this gloss smells so good. Yes, pink lip, come through, okay? I also want to say that if you feel that any of your rights as a citizen are being violated, you should definitely reach out and report to the Department of Justice. Now, I will leave your information on the screen right now, as well as in the description box. We're awarded freedoms that we take for granted here in this country, and if you feel like any of those freedoms are being suppressed, you should definitely speak up about it. I mean, it's part of the reason why this country is so great. Don't let anybody silence you. I love these lashes. Such pretty lashes. But yeah, also, if you are not sure of your voter registration status, definitely check out vote411.org, because you can just do a few keystrokes and boom, it'll tell you if you're registered, and if you are registered, it'll even tell you what county you're registered in. So make sure that you check that out. I wish I could do something with this hair. Y'all see this hair? This hair is wild and free, honey. That pretty much wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful and interesting. If you did find this video helpful in any way, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Statistics shows that 90% of you guys who are watching these videos are not subscribed. What's up with that? Subscribe to the channel, okay? Hit the post notification bell so that you can be notified of my future uploads. And I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.